Welcome to the D&D world of Roll 420s from Binge on This. Join along as a racially confused cleric.
My name is Flint Fireford. I'm actually a human cleric, but I totally believe that I'm a dwarf.
A klepto with a forgotten past.
My name is Silver with a Y, with no memory before the age of 89.
A 300-pound stoner that was raised by Monty Python pirates.
My name is Thelonious Kindbud of Clan Kindbud, and I'm the captain of the Sing Semilla.
And a woodsman from Montana.
Steve, he's real big into bagpipes, too.
As they go on a wild campaign known as...
The campaign, I've called it the War of the Brother Kings.
Fuck, you baller monster.
Join us for this brand new D&D campaign on an all-new show from Binge on This called Roll 420s.
All right, welcome Rene De Le Fuente to the Sam of All Trades podcast. Dude, it's great to have you on, man. We're old friends here, so it's going to be great. How you doing, man?
Thank you so much. Good.
So,
Excited.
right, super excited. Well, first of all, we haven't spoken in a long time. We've known each other for quite a bit now, and you're in Arizona, and I'm here in the old LA. But so to start off, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background and what it is that you do? I mean, because I have a lot of titles for you here, and my favorite one so far is Creative Dictator.
Yes. Man, okay, so yeah, I don't even know where to begin with that. But
Well,
okay.
so what do you do day to day, I guess?
So that's tricky. So it honestly just depends on the day. To summarize, I've worked in a ton of different industries, from like architecture to visual effects, animation, film, commercials, TV, agency, studios, kind of like all over the board. So I've had a lot of experience in problem solving. So my day to day usually is problem solving, from either a creative end or just consulting to working with people to help them solve their own problems.
Okay, so what would
speak.
one of these problems entail? Like, for example, like what would be a common one that you get?
I think the most common one it comes from a lot of people trying to get into doing more digital marketing. So a lot of business owners just don't know how to break through. They know that they get served ads, and then they see other people doing it, but like where they should begin and all that. The problem with most business owners is that, and I'll use gyms as an example. Okay, so most gym owners are not business people. They're in business, but they're not business people. So they're like professional athletes, or they're black belts and grandmasters or whatever. But if you were to ask them to put a business plan together, it's going to definitely reflect that they did not have usually business backgrounds. Doesn't mean they can't learn it. It does take patience and time and things like that, but it's very foreign to them. So if you look at almost any gym anywhere, you can tell right off the bat from their website to the ads to their Facebook, their Instagram, if they're out there tweeting, you can get a good sense of how well they think they're connected to the community, if they really know their audience. So a lot of times, if it's a gym owner I'm talking to, it's first kind of breaking down so they understand what is their business plan? What were they doing to grow their business? And if they don't have kind of an idea, and they have maybe components of it, is I'm going to throw money into Instagram and Facebook because that's where people are. It may be true, but there's a lot of flaws in that. So it's getting people away from the idea of, I'm going to execute this part of a plan, but then not really having a plan to begin with. So I take them backwards, and I get them at the beginning to identify their goals. And then once they have goals, we can make a plan, and then it may involve a digital strategy, but that's an execution of a business plan. It's not a plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. So yeah, it's from that extreme to I have other people hit me up for simple UI UX stuff.
And what is that?
For looking at so user interface and user experience. Um, so someone will send me either a website or they're talking about developing an app, and what I'll end up doing is they'll kind of give me everything they have on it so far, and what I'll go through is kind of poke holes into where they might be missing their audience, or if there's a better way to kind of engage people
Hmm.
through the language or visuals on their site or their app. And then it's just on my end, it's a ton of research. So it's like you break down almost psychologically, like into components, who their users are going to be or who their audience is going to be, and age ranges, demographics, income, what type of other activities they do, down to possibly like, do they wear khakis? Are they a shorts person? Because all those things kind of play together. To
For
give you an
their audience,
example,
yeah.
oh yeah. So, and to give you an example, we did the same exercise with Acura one time for they're doing an NSX out here, which by the way is like a really fun car to test drive.
Okay.
Like I yeah
Little shout out.
yeah. Well, no, like any car that's going to be upwards from 160 to 200,000, and they're offering free test drives, go test drive it. Like it doesn't matter. Like Tesla, NSX, Audi, it doesn't matter. The free test drives, just do it. Like,
That's-
I may never own one, but
You
it was
might
fun
as
as
well
hell.
take advantage of that situation.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Hors d'oeuvres and free driving.
Hell yeah. So what got you into all of this? Like, what was the strategy? Like, you went to school for design and all of that, right?
Yeah,
Or
for
because
computer animation.
computer animation, because recently you've been getting more into that 3D realm, and I've noticed. But so what was the ultimate goal? Were you trying to be like a movie VFX artist? Were, did you want to be just a creative dictator, as you said?
No, so the goal originally was and still is to like work with NASA someday.
Okay.
Um, so it's just been a very long roundabout way to do it. But
Okay.
no, it's when I went into the field. I got into it in a weird way. So before, when I first went to school, it was for actually genetic engineering, and
Interesting.
because everyone in my family is they're either doctors or lawyers, accountants, engineers. So there's like a lot of STEM on that side of it. So when I went to graduate from high school, like I had equivalent of 6 years of math, 6 years of science. And then so when I went into college, I was like, you know what, I can work in a lab. I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just cycle through like materials and just do something like that. So genetic engineering seemed to be a good fit. And I was working on a comic book with a friend of mine, and I was writing the stories out, and he's like a freaking brilliant artist. And I think he actually works, he still works, or he used to work for Disney. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, he was living his dream. And I just asked him, we were at Barnes and Noble one day, like, and I would just ask him, like, man, like, what do you want to do? And Toy Story, the original Toy Story came out a couple years before, and he's like, oh, I want to do computer animation. And like that, I was like, oh man, I want to do computer animation. And I just like left the university, went to the Art Institute, and then just followed computer animation. And then that's kind of where I was like, that's exactly how I could see going into getting into NASA, because at the end of the day, like they still need marketing material. They need to create
Hmm.
visualizations, and then the idea of running simulations for some of the stuff they do would be freaking amazing. Like,
Yeah, some
yeah,
of that processing power for those simulations that they put out there, it's incredible. Um, so what would your advice? Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what you do, because you're pretty much a jack of all trades, or Sam of all trades at this point. Because you have to be very adept in everything you do, because every problem that they bring up to you, you have to do all the research, you have to figure out the problem. um that must be pretty hard too, when, like you said, you have to pull people back and poke a bunch of holes in what they already have, and that you must get a lot of pushback on that.
oh yeah, yeah.
It-
No, I had lots of pushback on everything. But honestly, it's welcoming and it's good. The reality is no matter what, there most people's fear is failing, and it's a very unhealthy fear to have. Like the only way you're going to fail a lot to be successful,
Mhm.
and if you're not failing, you're really not trying at something hard enough.
Yeah.
I think Musk had said something about if you're an innovator and you're not failing, then you're not really innovating something worth it. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
something
I mean,
weird.
that's the old adage, right? I mean, fail a million times, or what did
Yeah,
Rocky say? Fall 6, get up 7,
get
or
up 7. Yeah, but no,
but
there's a lot of pushback because of fear. Um,
yeah, because I remember we had a conversation a long time ago, and it was about the same. It was about a gym actually, and they were giving you a bunch of hard time about they wanted some. They basically put a bunch of money into Instagram, and they were expecting an increase in numbers, and it's like, dude, it's only been a couple of days, and they
yeah.
expect instant return
Yep.
for hiring what for what you do. Is
Yeah.
there
No, you're right.
what's the quickest return you've seen when you fixed someone's whole portfolio up like that?
I mean, I'd say that the quickest. So don't get me wrong, you can have like immediate results, like as soon as things are out of a learning mode or learning phase.
Hmm.
You can have immediate results if no one else is bidding on the products or the things that you're bidding on, or trying to go after the audience you're going after. But long term, consistent,
Growth, yeah.
growth and stability is completely different. Like for that, you not only need at least like 90 days to kind of have enough data to look at overall, but having like a good back year helps. And or I mean, it comes down to like if you don't have enough empirical data, you're always going to fall under a small sample fallacy. So you could only be looking at like, hey, like I did great in like May, I killed it. The rest of the year is going to be great. It's like, yeah, or you happen to have a product that is applicable to people who are stuck at home during a pandemic, who can't go anywhere else. So, naturally you did really well. But as soon as things get lifted, like, and you're out buying a Ferrari, you may be returning it too soon.
Yeah.
You
I
have
was
to look at everything on a whole.
That's what I thought about those Peloton bikes. I'm like, that's a fad for this quarantine.
Right.
So this whole right, the whole roundabout way to get to NASA, you must have seen all kinds of pitfalls for someone starting out and trying to be a creative director or a 3D FX artist and all that stuff. What are some of the speed bumps that you've hit along the way?
Um, Honestly, it's not specializing in any one area. Like if you're going to, it took me a long time to figure out that what I needed to get anywhere I wanted to be was to have at least a 3 to 5 year plan on how I was going to get there. Like I had to know where I wanted to go and then start backstepping to figure out, okay, well, if let's say I want to travel from here to LA, I know that even it takes like 6 hours to get there, but I need to at least make it to Palm Springs first. And
Hmm.
then I need to make it like, to Cathedral. Then I need to make it to like Winslow. And I start backtracking to I'm eventually where I'm at now.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, now I know how I need to get to where I'm at. And it's you have to have like a strategy to begin with. The problem I think I faced that is it was hard for me to just specialize in one thing because I'm just avidly curious about everything. So
Hmm.
it was very hard to just stay focused in like just doing lighting and rendering. It's like, but I love character animation. So dive into character animation, and then then visual effects and animation. And then someone asks you like, hey, I have this film I'm doing, can you do a title sequence? Never done one before, but sure. And then you
Hmm.
figure it out. You figure out how to do it. And it's just, I have had like about 20 years of experience of just kind of someone's asked for something and either I knew it or I didn't know it, but I knew I could figure it out.
Yeah.
And it was just, constantly throwing myself into like very, very deep depths without knowing how to swim sometimes. So
Yeah. Yeah. Paint yourself in the corner and have to get out of it. So as
yep.
for someone starting off and wanting to get into kind of this realm of work, what are some of the essentials? I mean, because it seems like a very expensive job. You have a lot of hardware, a lot of software. I mean, so what you pretty much need a camera, you need a computer that
Right.
can that can push these softwares that so what's the essentials? What's the core tools that you use?
So honestly, like you could get away with a lot just using your cell phone and laptop computer. But what you want to do if you're going to go into any visual effects or you're going to do motion graphics or whatever it is you want to do as much research on the software that you're going to use, or the tools you're going to start off with, and just know that they're tools. Like over time, all tools change. I did 3ds Max for about 10 years before I switched over, actually 13 years before I switched over to Cinema 4D. And Cinema 4D was just because someone challenged me to like work with them on their pipeline and like gave me a month to try to learn it to keep up. And once I got it, like day I think 1, I was like, man, why was I using 3ds Max? It's just like so much harder. So like they're all tools. But if you have a preference or there's people you follow on Instagram or YouTube, pay attention to the tools that they use. If there's tutorials and resources out there, and then look up benchmark tests on computers. So all computers someone's going to run like benchmark tests. And for our industry, it's a lot better. If you don't know anything, get a gaming computer, because gaming computers are designed to take the wear and tear that you are going to do to a computer with motion graphics.
Right. Basically, let's see. I got my notes here. So if this doesn't work out, I mean, but this is kind of a hard question because again, you are a jack of all trades at this point. If this doesn't work out, what would you fall on? Because I mean, it's kind of hard to say because one day you're working on a car commercial, another day you're helping a guy with a web thing. So if that doesn't work out, you always have something to fall on. So I mean, I don't even know how to pose this question at this point.
Yeah, but you know what though? Like you get burned out. Like I'll tell you
You
that
would have to.
You do. You get burned out, especially if you're dealing with certain types of people. Like I think one of the reasons that I've lasted as long as I have is that is actually for 2 things. Like one, I try to do something different in the sense of like I'm not afraid to jump into an industry I don't know anything about. Like I just over this whole quarantine, I just started learning coding, like because I haven't needed it yet. But for the things I want to do with AR and VR, like I start picking up Python so I can jump into C+. And, those are the things I know I'm going to need to know to do some of the things I want to do. So I just started picking it up. And I'm doing horrible at it. But, I just know that in
It's
time
hard.
I'll do better.
Yeah,
But,
coding is one of the hardest languages to learn right there.
right. But I also, so that's one thing is like that's kind of helped me stay moving and nimble and alive is I just try to do different things. But the other thing is, dude, like even I'm trying to think, like I have no problem walking away from any industry. I've worked in warehouses. I love manual labor. I mean, it's just one of those things that it's more rewarding sometimes. And I think like after the first time I left the studio and film world for like 3 years, I worked in like high-end retail and working in warehouses stocking shelves. And the warehouses were easy because it was just like all you're doing is unloading a truck and there's no thinking involved. Like you make games of it, but there's no real thinking involved. Like it's good exercise. And then with retail, it was entirely because I realized that to get better at to get further at what I want to do, I needed to know how to network. And so I put myself in a position where I was selling high-end jewelry to people. And so it's very interpersonal, so it's not in a mall, it's like one of the offsite locations. And you're dealing one-to-one with the person. So you have to gain their trust. You have to get them to like you. You have to, you have to make it about them.
Talk them into spending that money on jewelry.
Yeah. And it's all psychology, but it's great.
Infinite curiosity is pretty much what you are. Because I met you at the gym. I met you through Krav Maga, and that was one thing. You've always motivated me, by the way, because I saw not only do you do all of this, but you're a father as well, and you had this incessant energy I never seen that someone could push themselves so hard. I mean, I would feel lazy next to you, and I thought I was pushing myself. So that's
Thanks,
one
man,
thing
appreciate it.
no, man. I mean, really, your motivation has always been something of that I held up. Like I would put myself in your shoes sometimes, being like, damn, like would I be that motivated? I don't even know. Because I mean, you were doing rock climbing with, and you were doing
Oh
this, you were
yeah, that's
doing
right.
that. I remember you took out this book one time. You're like, check out this thick ass book. You're like, this is what I'm learning right now, 3D. And I was it's crazy. It's crazy. So for anyone trying to get into this field, do you have any advice? Do you see kind of what's going on the horizon with this whole pandemic and epidemic or whatever you want to call it? Where do you see this industry going? All this, is it going VR? Is that the future?
Yeah, it's a mix. So it's I'll tell anybody going into any side of motion graphics, 3D, visual effects, movies, whatever, like learn a game engine. Like absolutely learn a game engine, because everything that we're going to move towards is going to be ran by a game engine. The visual effects community is already seeing it, but VR and AR are ran off game engines. And if you don't know a game engine, within the next 5 years, and you're trying to get into this industry, you're gonna there will always be jobs to do certain things. But if you really want to be on that front end of where tech is, and tech is going to be, like, you have to learn a game engine. Like, and Unreal is probably one of the best ones right now. It's huge like resource. There's tons of free classes. They have a ton of things. They
That's
do
been
a lot
around
of
for a
webinars.
while.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
open source, and their latest engine is just freaking killer. But if you think about it, right now we're at a point where tech and software are so neck and neck that it's kind of, we're trying to see which one's going to give us that big breakaway. But we're
Mhm.
not far from it, like, at all. Especially when it comes to creating more of a simulation type of reality, which is what is going to be fun.
That's so wild. I tried some of that VR helmet. It's still not where it needs to be for me because I get motion sickness really quick. So I'm when movies went 3D, I was getting a lot of motion sickness, but now they don't get me all sick. But that VR,
Yeah.
we still have a few more years, but it's insane what they're able to do. I mean, at the end of the day, I still like to sit on my couch and just use my thumbs to play video games. I don't want to run around my living room. So, I mean,
Right.
there's that. But no, that's interesting. So basically what you're telling everyone is that we're going to be living in a simulation.
Yeah, well, we probably are, but
Nah, that's
it gets hard. It gets harder to argue that. But
honestly, it
the other
is.
thing, it is hard to argue that birds aren't real. Ask anyone. I think that started in California. But like, so learning a game engine is going to be essential for anybody on this side of tech, or marketing in general. Like, the funny thing is that we can do things with game engines now that I've yet to see people do on advertising and marketing, that I'm just kind of flabbergasted no one's doing it yet. But that means there's opportunity to grow. But the other thing is, if you, let's just say you're not as much on the software side or the heavy tech side, if you want to be useful in any field, like, develop a really deep sense of emotional intelligence. There's and it's one of those things where you either got it or you don't. Like, you can learn it over time, but it's one of those things, like, I can't, I don't know, I don't know how
Is
to
it like
put it.
reading, what you're saying is like reading people or reading a room, like the emotional intelligence of like what you're trying to convey? What are you talking about, like something like that? Because at least
Yeah,
in the writing world, we kind of talk about the same thing. Like we're talking a lot about emotion, and I guess advertising and anything creative, you're trying to get emotion across.
right. So it's emotional intelligence is going to take you at a very subject level to a very objective level, and it's exactly what you're saying. And if you have a way of it's one thing to take one person aside and talk to them and inspire them, motivate them, hurt them. It's another thing to take large groups of people and do that same thing to them. And having a large sense of emotional intelligence is like it's true empathy in the sense of if I'm looking at an app that you're developing and you're developing it for like, say, golfers on a golf course, I'm going to consider the types of people that, one, will probably use it, two, like use it while they're playing, and then like start breaking that down. Like, well, are they only going to use it when they're on the golf course? Does this have any utility outside of that? So then you have to put yourself in the position of like, okay, I'm a golfer on a golf course. How would I use the app? Is my glove on still? Like, am I holding my clubs? Like, am I going to put this in my phone? Do I have to constantly lock my phone to use the app? Like, there are a lot of things you have to think about by being the person in the moment that they would actually use the app or use the website or use whatever. So if you were doing a website and you're trying to sell, say your business is you're marketing like for health and fitness for something, right? Often the last thing that people want to do is know how many awards you have, know how many sponsors you have. They don't care about you. What they want to know is, what are you going to do for them? And so the language that you use that really engages people is when you're making it about them, and then having like a series of questions instead of just saying, oh, want to join my blog, subscribe here, whatever. It's about labeling people in certain ways, and then asking them, like, begging the question, like, does that sound like something you struggled with? Click here to find out more information.
Right.
That's far more engaging, and you have a higher likelihood of getting someone to subscribe or download something than to just, for a free PDF download. It's like, well, I don't want more free shit,
Yeah.
I
want
people
something
are
that
starting
speaks
to get
me.
away from them. Yeah, exactly. It's like if you walked down Las Vegas Strip, like back in the 80s and 90s, you had people handing out flyers, and the natural mammalian response is just to have your hand out and take it. You don't need it. You're not even going to read it. You're just drop it or toss it. But like, it's just a natural response. So people used to have that when the internet was a lot younger, but nowadays people are to the point of like, you really have to sell it to them. You need to make it about them. If you want a really great idea of people to watch who do this really well, go to like any mall and look at the kiosks and study the Middle Eastern and Persian and like the people there selling lotion and trying to put lotion on hands and cell phones. Like, watch how they approach people and watch how they can get someone who's like already said no 5 times to still stop and talk to them. Even if they're angry, they're still stopped and they're talking to them. They can create engagement, and it's for a reason. They have a really high level of emotional intelligence.
Yeah,
So
I used to see that in Turkish bazaars all the time.
Exactly.
No, I mean, people would walk by, they would spew every language they knew. They'd start with Dutch, German, whatever, and then end up in the language that person spoke. And then once they figured that out, then they latched on and they would start, no, come here, look, I didn't buy anything, Wow.
I totally forgot you're from Istanbul. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not Turkish, but yeah, I was born and raised there. Okay. So I asked you, where do you see this going in the future? What was one of your biggest failures in this industry that you learned a lot from, that you wish someone had told you, like at the beginning? Or something that you were like, when you got burnt out, you were thinking to yourself, man, if someone would have just told me this, like I would have taken these steps to not either burn out or like, what's something like that?
Okay. So okay. No, that's easy. Honestly, like, and I've told this to anybody that I've mentored or anybody that I used to hire when I was working for the agencies. Don't get attached to your work. Like, it's not your work. Like, if you're working for somebody, whether it's a client or whether it's like an agency or whoever it is, if you're working in an agency, it's not your piece. You should take pride. You should absolutely do your best job, but don't get attached to it because it's not yours at the end of the day. So if you really have an idea or a project you're working on, you love it so much and you want to do something beyond what the client is asking or beyond what anyone is expecting or even like what they're looking for, do that on your own. You make it yours, make it a portfolio piece, but like, don't get attached to it because you will go through revisions, changes, critiques. People will hate it because you use the wrong color or you're not reading their mind on what font they want. And you're going to get frustrated because you're going to make the best decisions you can. based on information given, which all designers should be doing. And the client's going to still dictate you something you know is innately wrong. But at the end of the day, you have to do it because they're the client, you know?
Yeah.
And if you have that mindset of knowing, like, segregating and not being attached, it's easier to go through all those critiques. It's easier to go through, like, doing the dumb things that they ask for, because it's less frustrating, you know? Like, you know, you don't have to worry about fighting the design. It's like, no, I want one toilet this way and then another toilet so that people can lock eyes together. And you're like, no one would use that.
No one
Like,
wants that.
that's what I want. Cool. That's what I'll build, you know? And
Yeah.
like, it just makes those days a lot easier. Like, you know, from tattooing people, like when
Oh my
like
gosh.
when people have their 2 cents and you're like, man, well, it's not on me. So whatever, you have to wear it,
Yeah.
you know?
I've had that where at the end of the tattoo, they're like, but oh man, you were right. And I was like, yeah, that's why I fought you on it the whole way. But at the end of the day, you're the
Yeah.
boss.
You're paying. Yeah.
I mean, and that's another thing with the film industry. Kill your babies. Like, whatever you think, is the best thing you've written. It doesn't matter as long as someone's paying you to write something else. Just fucking write it. You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, in your field, what do you think is the best way to get a job? Is it making your portfolio reels? Is it LinkedIn? Is it word of mouth? I mean, is it all of it?
Well, it can be all of it. I guess it depends on which state of your career you're in. So
Mhm.
if you're just starting off and you're coming into it, you're not going to have much on a reel. However, you're not going to ever get hired for working on projects to produce work that you've never produced. So find tutorials and find the types of work you want to create and make your own version of that, you know, because that's going to tell you, like, how far you are away from your goal of
Mhm.
making that work. And it's going to give you kind of like a good portfolio path of how you can get hired. And if you're a student just coming out of like any university, like, don't put your university work on the reel, because you and 60 of your classmates are all going to go apply for the same damn job. And the creative director, art director are going to look at every one of your portfolios and see the exact same work, you know, and some may shine better than others, but they're not going to want to see something you produced in school. Like, that, I would say, hands down, that's annoying. Like, and you could tell what school projects were, you know,
Mhm.
because you're like, man, I just saw like 3 other resumes come through with their reels, and these look like all the same project, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely like make your own. There's so much content out there now. I mean, and like, I started 20 years ago, and like there was nothing, you know? There was no one creating tutorials. There wasn't anything for you. You had to go to school to kind of get the materials or buy a book that read like stereo instructions because it was written by engineers.
Yeah.
And so, you know, nowadays there's no excuse. Like, for $5 a month, you can get a better education on Patreon than you can through most schools.
Mhm.
But what you will miss out on those schools are going to be the insight that's going to lead to more curiosity and things you don't know about, because
Mhm.
again, your only exposure is whoever you're following, you know, and that's an active choice. I'm following these people. When you're at school, like, you're exposed to so many other influences that you can't control what's coming through your door. And then, so there's like a give and take in that.
And
But
then
yeah,
those
you have to just start.
Oh no, I was saying, and then relationships that you come out of with school, and
Yep.
the friends that you make that are in that field also.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I think coming out of school, some of the first gigs I got were actually connected through teachers who
Mhm.
gave me recommendations to go talk to so and so. And yeah, it was probably hands down like one of the best ways to do it. You know.
Yeah. So, what is something that's truly getting what's truly exciting you right now that you're working on?
Ooh, yeah. I'm gonna go back to game engines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah. No, it's dude, it's scary. Like, it's scary how good things are. There's so many companies out there that are like, so as AI gets better, and it's gonna easily surpass us. Like, it's gonna easily surpass us. And there's no question about it. How we use AI on a daily basis is different though than the type of AI that is going to surpass us. But we are getting so much better at replicating reality that it's indistinguishable on certain levels when you're looking at modern day simulations and the way game engines operate.
Mm-hmm.
The parts that we are still lagging on are humans. We can detect, even though we don't have to all be data scientists and be able to read micro ticks in a facial animation or person, but we have a good sense of what's real and what's not real because we have our entire lives experience betting against that, you know. But AI is getting so much better. Like just even what they did with Endgame in the animation, like all of Brolin's like stuff is AI driven. You know, it's the micro ticks, the little flexes, like that's all AI driven. You know, an animator could do that, but the amount of time it would take is like it would be insane to the end goal. You know, so we are using smarter tools to make our jobs faster, but at the same time, we're also teaching those tools how to be better tools. You know, so they're going to get better at their job, which means less stress, and we can focus more on doing other things. But like you take game engines and then you take like there's this company thing called Soul Collective or
Soul Calibur. I'm kidding.
it could be Soul Calibur, but it's a great game. I actually have no idea. But there's this group in San Francisco. I think they're in San Francisco and they're also in New Zealand. And they created these artificial people, and they started off with babies. And basically, they're wiring the brain and coding it entirely so that it can respond to you. So
that's scary.
It's entire AI. Yeah, it's creepy, but it's freaking amazingly fantastic. And so they've grown. They have like different stages of this being or whatever it is. And I think that they're trying to get to a point where they can apply for rights for it. But it's
crazy.
Yeah. Well,
like that movie Short Circuit.
Why not AI?
Remember that movie Short Circuit?
Yeah.
Where at the end he gets his citizenship.
It'll happen. Like the digital helpers, and that's what it is. It's like it's building essentially Jarvis. And because we've mapped the human genome, we were mapping and unlocking new parts of the brain, and so we're trying to learn how we learn, and we're trying to learn like how to progressively make AI smarter, but replicate us in a process. And so this one company's done a phenomenal job so that like you can say things that can hurt its feelings, like so-called feelings, or get it happy, or it can have some sense of a dialogue back and forth with you. But like that's a small component that will eventually be accessible in almost any sort of game engine or anything that we do. Like you're gonna make your house smarter. You're gonna walk in and say, start the pot, you know, turn on the lights. Everything's voice activated. It's like, I think last time I looked, it's like several trillion devices to like, it's like, I think, several trillion devices to every billion people that can listen and respond to you that are smart, activated. Yeah, your fridge, microwaves, dishwashers, like everything is responsive and always listening. That's why we could talk about Nike right now and oh my God, Coke is amazing. And then I'm going to get an ad within the next like 5 minutes saying, oh, you said Nike. And then they're going to look at anything else I've browsed and then serve me an ad saying, you might be looking for new running shoes because we see that you also like CrossFit, you know?
So wild. I mean, I don't know about this whole Minority Report world that we're going to live in. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I was talking about leather jackets with those zippers with a friend of mine. He wanted one, and we were just talking about it. And then the next day, I had an ad on Instagram for leather jackets with zippers.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck?
You know, it's weird for people like us, but think about it. It's not designed for people like us. It's designed for the younger generation who have no idea what it was like to grow up without having that, you know? So, and it's all about user engagement. Now, how much easier did your phone make it for you to find what you might be looking for because it heard part of a conversation, you know? And so the younger generation don't really think about, well, that's great, but what are you listening to? You know, like, where does this drop off? Where do you cut the cord?
My
But
issue,
it's all about making it easier.
my issue with all of that is that I've bought a couple things off Instagram ads like that, and they've been scams, or the things didn't show up at
Oh,
the
yeah.
door. So it's just like, why would you listen in on my conversation, try to sell me something that's a scam? That, you know what I mean?
Because,
Like,
oh yeah. See, and that's where that's that digital and marketing thing, because like that's how a lot of people feel like that. I have a buddy of mine that I was helping all last year trying to sell more of his fanny packs, and they're like really cool. Like it's like they have like really like unicorns. They have space themes. They have all kinds of interesting like kind of 90s throwback stuff. So,
mhm.
but he was always up against those type of shops that you're talking about. And I was trying to tell him, like, the thing is, those Instagram doesn't distinguish whether you're a legit business or not. What it does do is that over time, based on how people are responding to you as a business, or your comments, or the engagement you like, or how close your product fits to what people have been looking for or saying, then it's going to aggregate more product towards you. So if you start getting people you start going down trending, like negative followers, and people are commenting like, dude, your product sucks and this and that, Instagram's paying attention, but they're gonna make it harder for you to bid. But if you have money, like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like, you could buy like, I guarantee, because I ran into the same thing with a hoodie. I got the hoodie, it wasn't even the hoodie I ordered, and it was just like a crap material, and I was like, are you serious? But it's like you can make, it comes out of India and China. They make Instagram accounts. It can come from anywhere, but the products are all AliExpress,
Mhm.
or Alibaba.
Yeah.
You just buy them like in bulk for like $2 a pop, sell them for 30. What do you care? Like, because the likelihood that someone's going to return it is slim to none. They'll complain, but to go through the process of getting a return is
For like a
people make
$12
it
hoodie.
harder. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's like rebates. The rebate companies bank on the fact that most people won't file for it. It's a
Mhm.
gamble, and they win all the time because of it. We're gonna get you this computer. There's a $500 rebate, but you're gonna pay $2,500. So you're like, oh, cool. In the end, I'm saving $500. No, you're not. You have to file that rebate. But if you don't file it,
Yeah.
you just paid them $2,500.
Yeah, I lost some money on a rebate like that for like my washer dryer. I never got the rebate. I
Same
forgot
thing.
about it. Yeah,
I
it's
did
just-
too.
bastards. Wow. So AI is going to take over the world.
Yeah, Skynet.
Yeah. So this Unreal Engine that you're using right now, what do you think that you're going to use? Like, what applications are you going to use it for in your mind? Like, what do you want to use it for?
So right now, I am working more on creating I'm trying to find workarounds for creating cinematics, because I work a lot in Cinema 4D, and I've been using Octane as my main renderer. I've been picking up Arnold because the guys at Grayscale Gorilla are the shit and produce like a lot of tutorials. It helps a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but it still takes a long time. I'm not saying it's faster in a game engine, but there are a lot of things that are faster in a game engine. And the idea of being able to move in real time and see your render, like, without having to, and still fix things and make things, come alive, like, has a utility that you just don't get unless you have like a souped out supercomputer and like a server farm, but so it's starting off with cinematics because I want to be able to create I want to see how far things can get pushed to realism, both with lighting, texturing, rendering, and Unreal has like a very heavy hand in pushing that whole thing forward, especially with mega scans. But the end goal is still AR. Like, at some point in time, easily within the next like 5 to 8 years, the microchips on our cell phones and the power will be able to probably power what takes right now a PC tower to do. And it's just because technology is getting better. It's getting smaller. It's getting faster. It's just it's progressing the way it always has. So by the time that happens, AR is going to be even more explosive. But the thing that will kill AR before it ever gets there is going to be if not getting it into the hands of enough people that can use it and have utility for it. Because it's like any app, you know. If you download a workout app, I mean, how many times do you use it, you know, or a special timer or a special anything, right? These are one-off things. So apps are going to be like, apps are, I don't know. I think apps are good for back
They're
in
a
the
little
day.
oversaturated right now.
They are, yeah. There's like a ton of them. It's like, you know, I just need to learn how to cook an egg. You know, it's like boiled egg in a minute. I'll do it in like 59 seconds. Like, great.
Yeah.
But apps are not going to be the way to go. What's going to happen is WebGL is going to have to kick up its game, which it has been, and WebGL is going to bring. If it's not WebGL, it's going to be something like it. Is going to bring 3D and AR into more browsers. So Chrome will do it native. Safari will do it native. Internet Explorer will do it native like 10 years after, you know, but it will all happen. And browsers are going to be how people can still use AR, because I don't want to download another app to make AR work. There's already so many apps to do it. And it doesn't make sense. Like it has a poor user engagement, and it's going to be a lot different. Can you imagine if websites didn't have browsers and you had to download a website to your phone?
That would be a pain.
Yeah, it would be a huge pain in the ass, you know. But we now have technology and software development to a point where AR is not going to be an app. It's going to have to fit into web browsers, and if it fits into web browsers, then it puts it into more people's hands, like already, without them having to do anything extra. Mm-hmm. Then it's just about a matter of finding out, like, if you're going to use this, what are you going to use it for, and what's going to keep you at a higher likely engagement. And if nothing else, the shining light of hope was all those people that suddenly found exercise when Pokemon Go came about. You know, they got so many people off their asses, off the couch, out and about walking. I'd never seen so many people at the park. Like, I shit you not. Like, it was freaky too. And like talking to each other and being friendly, that was the weirder part. But that was engagement. You know, they created a game that required you to go to different places and to move and to hunt and find these things. And like you ended up in this whole other world, meeting a bunch of different people. And, you know, it's
I remember when people were getting robbed because of that. They would just be people waiting to rob people at those locations to pick up the Pokemons.
Yeah, exactly.
they were just sitting there
watching. There's a rare Pokemon there. Yeah,
watching kids walk up, looking at their phones.
Yeah, Jen was down in San Diego, and she was visiting family or something. San Diego or LA, but she told me it was San Diego. She was like, "Oh, I found this super rare Pokemon." I was like, "Where?" She goes, "Well, I had to go down an alley to get it." I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I was like, "Dude," I was like, because as it is, like, I was like, "Don't play the game while you're out there, because like, or anywhere, like if you're alone, or even if you're with a person and they're playing it, like, you guys will get robbed." Like if I saw you doing it, I'd want to rob you, you know?
Yeah, like it was 2 a.m. It was 2 a.m. It was really dark. There was no light down the alley.
Yeah, no, that was exact story. Like, they were out and about to like after midnight hunting Pokemon, and they ended up in this one part, and it was like, oh, it's down the alley, and then they went down there, and somehow, like, they no one robbed them, but
they missed the robbers.
Yeah, but it's like, dude, don't do things that would most crime is opportunity, right? So don't give people the opportunity. Like, you never. There are a lot of people that have smashed windows on cars to take a purse that had never thought about it before until they passed by a car and there was a purse sitting with nothing but glass between them.
So who's at fault?
It happens.
It's the person who left the purse there.
Yeah, it's called baiting. You know? And the reason we know that is because cops use it to catch those people. But it's still baiting.
Yeah. I like it when cops leave an unlocked car in a bad neighborhood. Like, right? Of course. Yeah. So, all right, Rene. Well, we're getting close to the end of this. I really appreciate your time. I still don't really know what you do. You just do all of it. But I'm excited and terrified of the future now. So where can people find you? If you have any social media you'd like to plug, if you have anything you'd like to put out there, where can people find you?
Ooh, that's a good
Yeah,
question.
I'll also put your Instagram and everything in the description. So
I'll tell you. I'm launching to so this funny thing, the timing of this was actually kind of funny. So tomorrow I am closing or deactivating all my personal like social accounts, and
okay,
I'm going to set up I'm going to start segueing and just setting up like my business account like on the IG and Facebook and probably Twitter. So I'll get those over to you. And honestly, it's like, especially after the last like 3 or 4 months and just the surplus of humans, like it just seems like it was a good time to take a mental health break from all that.
yeah,
And it's distracting, you know, and I really want to get a lot of these other projects off the ground. And like you asked me like earlier, like like what does it take to kind of get to where you want to be? Like
hmm
it's being willing to like not go out, you know, not meet up with your friends, not do these other things because you're studying, you're focused, and you're trying, you have that drive to get where you want to go. And sometimes that means not going to the parties. It means not like being able to hang out with people.
well,
And
no,
it's a
and
sacrifice, but yeah.
that's exactly what I was saying. Your motivation, I was amazed at, because yeah, it's the same thing as writing for me right now. It's like one of the main things that I just didn't even think about at the beginning. I was like, oh, I'm going to be creative. I'm going to do this. I want to write this. Is the amount of hundreds of hours I've spent by myself in front of a
Hmm.
screen, racking my brains, pacing behind my chair or whatever, and feeling lonely, sometimes, or just being
Yep.
like, man, like, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? Those doubts that creep in, but then you do something that pays off, or it's just that innate curiosity or wanting to achieve the goal that we want to achieve. But cool, I'll get all that information from you. Well, it's sad to see your personal accounts go. You're a really good
Oh, they'll be
photographer.
back.
They'll be back
They'll
once
be
I
back.
yeah once I don't want to do this no
I
more.
just want to launch. I just want to launch everything else, and I
have
just
you
know
seen
that I'm not going to do it.
have you seen an influx in job opportunities for VR or any of that creative types, any kind of digital creative types, since this pandemic hit?
Since no, but a lot of them are especially out where you're at, are having to find other ways to do it. Like a friend of mine who works actually out of LA, who lived out here for years, has been back since before LA got like fully locked down. She moved back out here, and she's amazing 3D artist.
Hmm.
But like her company basically had to shut down everything, and so she's been working off of computers and stuff like at her house. And like they've told her just kind of stay here like until they figure other things out.
Yeah,
So a lot of them are having to go to like more remote sort of artists. But I mean, honestly, the film industry and a lot of the industries aren't completely set up for success in that way, unless you're using like shotgun, or like you have like a good project management system. Like you know from even just writing, like coordinating with people and stories, especially for film or TV, is a pain in the ass, like as it
yeah,
is. And that's
yeah,
when you
yeah,
can be in one place, you know. But
yeah. Because I
yeah.
have a buddy who works with Paramount right now, and I believe it was Paramount, but he was told they're going to basically pay him when the pandemic is lifted, because they can't let anyone know that they're working. But he has all the computers at home, so that's why he does like color correcting, from the camera to what we actually see, and all that stuff. But it's interesting because yeah, they told him like, you could continue to get unemployment. We will pay you. We'll add up all the hours, and then we'll pay you at the end of all this. It's really
That's
weird,
awesome.
but it's really weird, man. It's just this whole
It's a
pandemic.
weird time right now. But you know what's going to be really interesting is, and we've already started seeing it. Like, so a lot of companies had to lay off a lot of people in every industry, right? So if you think about it from the point of view of if all businesses like had to let go of the best people, and even like close to the best, maybe they kept a few top earners, but for the most part, a lot of people got laid off, right? Right now, as businesses are opening up again, like they have an option. They can hire you back, or they can have you competing to go after another possible hire recruit. So from a business end, like I don't know if it's going to help them as much as it will individual artists, because you can put yourself in a bidding war if you're really good at what you do, because, you know, the companies are now saying, wait, well, we have our empty seats to fill. We can fill them with better people if, say, they didn't like the crew. And we all worked with somebody that were like, man, why are you here?
Yeah.
You know, like this is not for you, you know?
So basically we're playing musical chairs right now with all the employees.
Yeah. But like, we absolutely are. But like companies are companies are I think at a disadvantage. Like, yeah, we all know everyone wants work and everyone needs jobs, but like, just because like you were sitting, like, let's say like you were sitting with Paramount and you're working with them, doesn't mean that, you know, like Paramount's going to offer you what someone else can offer you to do work, the same work for them, you know, like, you know, most people coming back are going to want to know, well, what did your company do during the pandemic is a problem companies will face. People are going to, when that interview process, you're like, well, how did you handle it? Did you furlough your employees? Did you fire half of them? Like, you know, how did you work through it? Were they set up to work from home? Like, was that a success? Like, companies are in a backspin of like, yeah, like, how did you respond to national crisis? Because I guarantee this won't be the last one we go through, you know?
No. There's definitely more coming.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man.
So much fun.
I really appreciate your time. I'd love to have you back on again. And once I get all your information, I'll have them there in the description. And so I guess I will have you in the title as creative dictator. I don't know what else to put you as. All right, man. I appreciate your time, man. You have a good time there in Phoenix. Hope to speak to you again.
Yeah, hopefully see you soon too.
I know.
Artwork done.
I know. I need to come back out there. Here, hold on. Let me end the recording on this.